So I want to thank everybody who came out for Lag BaOmer. I did not host it. You know who you are. I just want to say to the families and the family that hosted that, like, literally that was the best party of my entire life. I'm still living off the energy right now. So anyway, in another video, I wanted to start dealing with more Gematria, or Gematriot. So as I said in one of the videos by the fire, that Pardes are the 4 levels of Torah elucidation. So Peshat, Remez, Darash, and Sod. It's a acronym, right? Or yeah, for Pardes. Those are the 4 levels of Torah elucidation. So the first one, Peshat, is the plain meaning, and the next one is Remez, which is allusions. So an allusion would be something like, a lot of times we think, a good classic example is Gematriot, or numeric values of words. But the other thing is, it doesn't have to be that. It could be rearranged letters of words. It could be various things like that, acronyms, certain things like that. But anyway, just a good example of Remez is like when we say the Shema. You say Shema Yisrael, and then after that line, the very next paragraph you say is V'ahavta. So basically, and you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your, I say increase, I translate it as increase, ma'od, or ma'odecha, which is, some people translate it as possessions. But basically that that word V'ahavta is, if you rearrange the letters of that word, there's the Hey in the middle, then you have the Aleph and the Beit, and then you have the Vav and the Tav. So if you spell it that way, it spells Ha'avot. So the fathers. So the fathers, or the patriarchs, are Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Excuse me. So the first line, the first section, first phrase in the V'ahavta is, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart. And we know that Abraham loved God with all his heart. And then the next one is to love God with all your soul. And we know that Isaac was the one who loved God with all his soul, to the point where he was willing to be sacrificed by his father. So he's willing to give up his life. And then with all your possessions, or with all your increase, that was Jacob, because he was the one who basically, we get the idea of tithing. He said, I'll tithe my possessions. And basically he's connected with giving over his possessions to Hashem. So those 3 ideas in the paragraph of the V'ahavta, the loving God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your possessions, is connected to the Avot, or the Ha'avot, the fathers of Benei Israel. So that's an allusion, or a remez. I'm sorry, the computer just... That's a remez. And as you can see, it doesn't deviate from the Peshat, or the plain meaning. And that's very important, because there's cults out there, and there's all kinds of other stuff. There's crazy stuff like the Kabbalah Center and the Bergs and all that kind of stuff, that they try and teach all kinds of crazy stuff. And then you get other people that pick up on this, and they want to like make some kind of cult out of it, because you can find Gematriot or Remez for something that's not legit. And that's because it deviates from the plain meaning of the text. So that's why the Peshat is important. And then whenever we deal with anything beyond that, Remez, Darash, and Sod, it doesn't deviate from the Peshat, okay, the plain meaning. And that's extremely important, because people get caught up in all this other stuff. And that's actually how you can find a difference between Judaism and some of these other cults, or even other religions that want to use these methods within Judaism to try and prove their heretical point. And it basically comes down to, it doesn't match the Peshat. So that was a good reference to that. Some other ones, well, I'll leave that for another time. I do want to go through the Baal HaTorim's commentary on the Torah. It is my favorite commentary. I love this kind of stuff. But anyway, what I'm going to read to you tonight, coming off of Shabbat, just ended, this is Benei Yissachar. So Benei Yissachar is a work that was written by Rabbi Tzvi Elimelech Spira. So he was a Hasidic leader. This is a Hasidic work. He's going to be talking. The majority of this book is about Shabbat. So it is about the entire calendar, but the majority of it is about Shabbat. It does deal with Rosh Chodesh and the months and stuff like that, but that's a smaller section of it. But anyway, the author introduces the book with this verse. It says, "The sons of Yissachar who have knowledge to understand the times, to know what Israel should do." This is from Divrei Hayamim Aleph. So 1 Chronicles 12:32. That's an interesting statement, because whenever you pull it out like that, because it's like in a list of like the different tribes and, different aspects of the tribes, what they had, like men who were soldiers and stuff like that. But yet it has this statement here about the sons of Yissachar having knowledge to understand the times, to know what Israel should do. So this work is kind of based off of that. And you're going to see that there's a lot of this digs into a lot of the mystical literature. But again, we're not dealing with the Kabbalah Center. We're not dealing with, the Bergs or anything like that, or that craziness. So this is not like phony Kabbalah. This is like the real stuff, not the crazy stuff. But anyway, he starts out. So this is divided into small sections that are just like small sheet, like it's called a Amar. It's just like a small little speech or lesson from a leader, from your Rebbe. So it starts out for the first one. It says, the Zohar in Yitro 88b states, "What is Shabbat? It is the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu," so the Holy One, blessed be He. A name that is complete in every aspect. So it's talking about Shabbat. So is a name that is complete in every aspect. It seems to me as follows. There are 27 letters of the Torah. So the Sefer Torah is written with 27 different forms of letters. So there are 22 base letters, but there are 5 final letters of like if a word is at the end of a word or at the end of a line or something like that, it's going to be in a final form. So there's 27 forms of letters you're going to find in a Sefer Torah. And if you multiply that, so each letter receives its viability from the exalted name. Hey, Vav, Yod, and Hey. So that's a permutation of the 4-letter name of God. So from the exalted name, blessed be He. Thus, the 27 letters contain the power of 27 times the name. Hey, Vav, Yod, and Hey. Okay? Which is the Gematriot of the value of Shabbat. Okay, so Shabbat is Shin, Bet, Tav. So Shin is 300, Bet is 2, Tav is 400, so that's 702. So 27 times 26, so 27 letters, forms of letters you see in the Sefer Torah, times 26 being the name of God, you get 702. And this is also alludes to the idea that like keeping Shabbat is like keeping the entire Torah. And it's also, crowning or emphasizing that Hashem is king of the universe. So you're going to find an enormous amount of stuff like this in this book, and it's just going to go through in all kinds of ways and deal with this idea of the connections in Shabbat with Shabbat. So we can now understand the meaning of what is Shabbat. It is the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You're actually going to find out, he's going to show you that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be He, that phrase, is connected to Shabbat as well. That's why he's using it. A name that is complete in every aspect. So that is from every aspect of the 27 letters which HaKadosh Baruch Hu used to create all the worlds through the power of His name, which radiates through them. The worlds were created in 6 days. And Shabbat is like the soul in the structure, the form of the world. Therefore, Shabbat is referred to as the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who gives life to them all. So being that Shabbat is a name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it is therefore prohibited for one to mention it in an unclean place. See the Talmud in Shabbat 10a for a similar concept. It says, where one is prohibited from speaking words of Torah. So an unclean place where one is prohibited from speaking words of Torah. Divrei Torah. So I know of those exacting in their I know those who are exacting in their deeds, who are careful not to mention the name Shabbat unnecessarily. It is a proper observance, for sages of the Zohar have said that it is the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Those who are intelligent may understand this matter. And you're going to see why this is like the Zohar is containing information that was passed down. So the mystical side of Judaism is connected to the schools of the prophets. And you're going to see this because once you start learning how these methods expound on certain topics, and these topics are connected with specific verses in the Tanakh. It's not like they just pull this stuff out of thin air. But you'll also notice that if you take those same methods that they're using and you kind of like apply it into your life, you're going to see things that you might not have been aware of before. And that has to do with names. Names are extremely important. You're going to see that with names. You're going to see that with just different actions in your life. You can just like you see like a coincidence sometimes. That is the most basic. Like seeing a coincidence between something is the most basic way of perceiving the world in a spiritual way. It's so basic. But like if you start applying these concepts of Torah elucidation and to the world around you, you're going to start seeing things that you've never seen before. And that's almost like that divine inspiration that's just built into the world, right? The world is entirely divine. Like we live in this world. I'm sorry, I'm even wearing this shirt. This is a representation of the vessels that Hashem created, the universe, when he created the universe, because he has to withdraw himself to make a vessel to create within. So there's nothing that is not Hashem. Like we are all a part of Hashem in some aspect. Okay, but so we were created with some sort of divine material. I don't know how to explain that, but you'll just see that the world around you can speak to you. Like that world around you, it has a language that's communicating with. I mean, it's all in communication with Hashem all the time. But the things in your life, you'll be able to see things, and it'll be beyond a coincidence. It'll be things that you just never even. I don't know how to explain it, but that's the reason why you study Torah. That's one of the reasons why you study Torah, so you can apply it to your life. But anyway, you'll start to see these things, and hopefully with this, like a different level of Torah elucidation, that you'll learn some stuff and you'll be able to apply that kind of stuff to your life. I mean, the sages, it's all throughout the Talmud and things like that, about the sages seeing something about a person's name or about something. Like I'm even mentioning this about like the New Testament. The New Testament is called the Evangelion, the evangel, what do they call it? The book of evangelism, right? The Evangelion. So in Hebrew, Evangelion means basically the iniquitous empty writing, the idolatrous empty writing. So that's the kind of stuff where like, whether they did that intentionally with the name, I doubt it, but Hebrew is a prophetic language. So whenever a Christian comes to you and says, here, we have this Evangelion for you, you're like, oh, no way, I don't want that. That book of sin, that book of idolatry and iniquity, don't want it. Don't want any part of it. Just, it's stuff like that completely, or rearranging of the letters, just like I just mentioned about V'ahavta and Ha'avot. This stuff is there. And like, they even say that there's prophetic inspiration whenever you name your child. There's a level of divine inspiration in that, and I feel like I absolutely see it with my family, my kids' names, and it's true. It's hard to get away from that, It's very, yeah. But anyway, those who are intelligent may understand this matter. So I'll leave it at that. That's the first Ma'amar of Rabbi Tzvi Elimelech Spira. So I don't know how frequently I'm going to do these videos, but I do want to take up the commentary of the Baal HaTurim, and maybe I'll do, I don't know, maybe an Aliyah a day or something. I'm not sure. I don't know if I have the time for it, but I wasn't going to do like Torah commentary, but I decided that maybe we should do it. I mean, there's people locally that I think they kind of need it. And most people that, you go through your commentary and you have stuff that you like, and it's the most basic form of study, but I wanted to kind of deal with other things. But sometimes what we want is not exactly what needs to be done. So maybe I'll take that up. And I do want to point out, so the Baal HaTurim's commentary, if you have a problem with the oral tradition, the inspiration of the rabbis, I think that commentary will absolutely shatter that. That book changed my life. Many years ago, whenever I purchased it, I mean, my life was changed before that, but it really changed my life. Because there's things that, you kind of, you just don't see sometimes in it's not like the teachings are not out there, but then all of a sudden you see this stuff in the text and it's like, wow. And it's hard to unsee things. Once you've seen something and your eyes are open to something and you know how to look at something a different way, it's hard to not see it that way anymore. It's extremely hard, like almost impossible. Just like when you go through the Torah. I mean, it's amazing because like an example of this in the days of creation, everything where the statement at the end of each thing that Hashem did, there's a statement, and the acronym of that statement is Emet, and it says elsewhere in what is that, Proverbs, that Hashil, I'm sorry, that creation was sealed with the seal of truth, Emet. And that's what is in these statements after every creative statement that Hashem made. So, I mean, we'll get to this. I might have to actually start out with that kind of stuff just to get people's appetite whetted for it, instead of maybe jumping into something in the end of Leviticus here that might not be as enthusiastic, but there's some really amazing stuff in the Torah. The Torah is so vast. Just think about it. It is 304,805 letters long, which in itself is a name of Hashem. But it is a document that's not very big, but yet it contains an enormous amount of information. It contains an enormous amount of information. That's why you can continue to write books and books and books and volumes of books, years, centuries, and millennia after its composition. So that's that. Okay, well, thanks for watching. I'm going to do a video now on the Daf Yomi. So if you don't do Daf Yomi, it would be nice to get started. It's actually very interesting. Get your mind working. It's a very good exercise. It's basically like Jewish case law and how the law is structured and how it's derived. So it's not for everyone. It's not for kids. It definitely isn't, because it's case law. It deals with some stuff that's not comfortable, and but everything in Judaism has implications in other areas. So it is something for mature study. But anyway, thanks for watching.